Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Nick. Nick is an executive sales and business leader. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
So, can you give us a brief background on what you've been doing and what you're currently doing on?
That's loaded question, right? How far back you want to go? But I think, for the sake of this, keeping it kind of simple with what's going on during COVID over the past 9 months. My past experience working, in the IT industry, for, IT distributor, Avnet, to EMC, and then going to work for partners. And then my last previous stop at a software company building out, channel strategy for North America. When COVID hit, it was, it's a time to sit and look and reflect and figure out, where to kind of go next and what to do and how you can use the skills and knowledge that you've built over the years to be a benefit and a resource to people. And I think that's where a lot of this started when, a lot of restaurants, small businesses were hit really hard. And, had a connection on LinkedIn. He and I decided let's do start a daily roundtable discussion. It started around end of March. And it was really just to invite small business owners to, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what's working, what's not, think outside the box and being creative, and how we can, help each other get through this. And then, so the first couple of weeks, it was, 7 to 10 people joining. And then something happened between that second and third week where all of a sudden we had 150 people join. We had people from Norway, from New Zealand, South Africa, all over the place, which was weird too when you think about time zones. Some 3, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning places. But that turns into a webinar, and so we really, no one's really going to pay attention. We have 150 people. I don't want to turn into a lecture. I want to turn into a conversation. And so we split that up a little bit, and then, really over the past few months. I've had a few people have asked me to come sit on and talk about sales and the marketing strategy and how you can scale and grow and what's going on with the remote workplace, how to keep your teams engaged. And everyone has a different circumstance, and so understanding what's going on with people and, and how you can, pay it forward. So I've been doing some mentor work with different universities, trying to help students looking for internships, in the early stage in their careers, trying to grow and learn. And then there's a lot of that sports background that I have within baseball and golf and hockey, working with some different startups, trying to help them, really position themselves. What's their purpose, their vision, the values, the mission of their company, and putting that strategically down and looking at that vision moving forward and realizing though that look, what works today and 90% of the time it's not going to work 9 months from now. And so although sales is, a big part of my background, being Lean Six Sigma, Green Belt certified, taking that lean and agile approach into helping these companies scale and grow, efficiently, is really a huge focus.
Okay, that's interesting. So, sales individuals are like when I look out for sales in the company. So we're born extroverts by nature, a majority of them.
And I'm not one of them.
You're not one of them. So that's even more amazing, right? So how you've kind of like navigated through COVID when it comes down to sales? For me, it has been a challenge doing everything on its own. So how kind of like you've navigated through that?
Well, I think that what we're doing right now, right? I mean, the amount of face-to-face, you miss that as much as you say like extrovert, introvert, doesn't mean that as an introvert you don't like to be around people. It's just more of how we operate as people, right? So I'm big into when you talk about team development and personality understanding. So the predictive index, emotional intelligence, I've used that with my teams over the years to understand, right, the different people that I work with, that I have underneath me, or that even their colleagues, right? So how they operate. I don't hand out my predictive index. Everyone, hey, this is who I am. Pay attention. You need to now, kind of deal with it, right, with how I work. But I think it's important to keep people engaged. When you talk about all the Zooms, I mean, I don't know, I think I'm zoomed out, right? I think everyone's zoomed out. And so where are we, going from here? It's going to be interesting to see.
Interesting. So any top three productivity hacks that you've kind of like figured out during COVID that has kind of like made you focus more? And how are you coping up with the Zoom fatigue?
Yeah. So, I make a joke where, my home office now where I'm sitting, I'm tired. I'm sick of it. I need to get out. Right. And so it's important to get up and move around. Right. So there's a few other things. I actually have connection on LinkedIn there. It's a startup company I'm working with, and they actually do it once a week. They do like a 45-minute Peloton workout on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're talking about culture, talking about keeping the body flowing, exercise, moving around. So they'll do different workouts. We do it. It's like everyone motivates each other. Hey, let's get moving, right? So there's a few people that kind of join in. It's been really kind of fun. You do the different. You talk about the happy hours after getting everyone engaged. But it's important to not. You can get stuck when you work remote to work nonstop. And I've always been someone, I miss going into the office, being in New York, going into the city. I'd be in at 6 in the morning and wouldn't leave till 9. But now it's when you're at home, you can work 24/7. I mean, I joke. Sometimes I forget what day it is, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just not. You're already here, So it's important to take that step back, right? And doing something outside of your office. So wherever you're supposed to be working, wherever you've been sitting down, it's how you need to really kind of disconnect and go somewhere else.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. So since you're also a startup advisor and you've been advising a few startups, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what advice you've been giving to young entrepreneurs who kind of like just started out during the pandemic or just before the pandemic, and with yes, 2019 was all-time high when it came down to VC funding, early stage funding. New York was getting a lot of traction, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when March, everything just kind of like came to a pause. So
Yeah.
someone, young entrepreneurs who just kind of like taken the leap and they've kind of like thrown into this whirlpool. So what advice would you give to them? And
Don't think that you are creating something that no one's ever thought of, right? You're not trying to be, and look, that's great, right? I mean, but it's how often do you see it, right? Someone creates something that no one's ever thought of, and don't think you're the only one that has it. It's how does your product, looking at what you're trying to do, what does it accomplish? Who is it supposed, who is your target market, right? Where do you see this as an opportunity, and how do you make it better for the other things that are out there? I mean, I think you've seen that over the, since March, really this year, the amount of not only startups, right, but independent, people like me, consultants, advisors, working, trying to figure out and going out on their own, that entrepreneurial spirit, you're starting to see it just explode, which is awesome. It's great to see. I love that ambition. I love to hear and sit down and talk with these founders. They have this plan, but it's, what are you doing it for? I think is really crucial, right? Are you doing it because this is something you really want to do? Or is it something that you feel like you have to do it because this is my only option, right? Because when you really take a step back and you're able to, assess, your best work isn't going to come from, hey, this is what I just got to do it because I don't have another option. Is it something you really want to do? And then surrounding yourself with people that are going to be great resources for you and for the company. I was, as much as, an entrepreneur, and you may say, I'm the founder or I'm the CEO, you don't do anything on your own. You can't be successful by doing only, you do all the work, right? So I think it's important to surround yourself with those people that have that same passion, have the same vision and the values, right, that you do.
Interesting. Last question, Nick. So rethinking office or the future of work has been going on for the last 2-3 years, right?
Yep.
And with WeWork started working on it, then in September 2019, the WeWork debacle started happening.
Yeah.
And remote work, because at Gaper we're very big advocates of remote work, and so then in March, due to COVID, everyone has been forced to, even the traditional, especially the Wall Street, so they had a hard time losing a tie because they're so conservative on it. Right? But now they've been forced to. No one thought in Wall Street that they would be working from home ever, right? And they've been forced to work
Yeah.
from home. Right? Hopefully, we'll have the vaccine out soon and everything. And once the world goes back to the old normal or whatever you want to call it, do you think the people would the companies would go back to the same way the typical traditional companies, or do you think it's going to be hybrid? And if not, then what's going to happen to all of this commercial real estate?
Yeah. So look, I think there's a lot to unpack there, right? With what the old normal, that we're not going to get there, right? And this just kind of goes into the evolution of how does, remote work and how do companies operate efficiently, effectively, and keeping their employees engaged. And I think that's where true, strong leadership is needed within companies, right? The ones that have good leadership, that have a foundation, have a onboarding plan, are able to work with remote employees. They enable their employees to do the job, right? I think that's what's, you've seen, right? Employees can work remote. They don't need someone to hold their hand. It's just giving them the tools and resources to be successful. And those companies that have been able to do that and do it effectively, I think they're starting to see, hey, why do we need, right, this massive office in Manhattan? As much as, the great thing about New York or any big city, I mean, you have the resources, the connections. A lot of people miss that, right? And so I think that you're gonna see some, yes, they want to stay remote, but there's going to be some that want to be in the office. And there's also jobs that you need to be in the office. You need that interaction with people. I think a lot of people are going to miss that, especially too, depending on how, as someone who doesn't have, doesn't have kids and, a huge family, it's a little bit different on my end, right? I can be very flexible in that. But then those families that have, right, kids, they're either in school, is it remote learning? Still, are they going back to school? So that's a lot to kind of take into an account as well. If the kids are remote learning, someone needs to be home with them. So hard to kind of make people come back into the office. And so I think you hit it where it's going to be a hybrid approach moving forward. The days of not being in huge office buildings or, not having any physical work. I mean, things kind of come back to the norm, right? People are going to want to be back into the city, especially you talk about cities like New York. But yes, the real estate market, you've seen it with what's been going on, right? Rent, people where they, choose to live. I mean, the cost of rent, I think it was a few weeks ago, like in places like San Francisco, is down 31% what they were charging. New York was down 15, 20%. People are leaving because they realize, like, what's the point, right? But there are still people that want to be there. And so I think that in the end, physical infrastructure is not going away anytime soon.
True. Nick, thank you so much for being on the show. Take care of yourself. I'm sure we could have talked for another 10 to 15 minutes, but my marketing team kind of like forces me to get them within 15 minutes. So
yeah,
thank you so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it.